not safe in prison. One of the most atrocious acts known to man. But he would pay the ultimate penalty for his sins. But what are those sins? What did he do that was so atrocious? It was the second time since December that the U.S. Bureau of Prisons reported a death at U.S. Penitentiary Terre Haute. Terre Haute was known as a safe place newly designed to take care of S offenders, dropout gang members, and those that have assisted law enforcement. But is anyone really safe? This is still prison, and there is no honor among thieves and real-life killers. The person closest to you is your cellmate, and sometimes your cellmate investigates you. Lock in, everyone. The night is over. Mario, the S offender, would head to his cell knowing that the night had ceased. He had just finished eating a bowl of prison-made nachos, watching a movie on the movie channel. His stomach on full, never knowing what night would be the night that he would never walk out of his cell again. When you're cellmates with someone in federal prison, the other guy is always interested in who you really are, as you should be of him. After all, you're locked in alone. Once that door locks, you're all alone with that one man that could take your life. But would it be this cellie that would end it all for Mario? Not tonight. Not today. After all, Mario Uncle Red Waters of Palestine, Arkansas, was housed where he thought he was safe. USP Terre Haute, the maximum federal prison that now held people just like him. Those dropout gang members, prisoners that are in danger in other prisons, and the people who have assisted law enforcement. But there were rumblings among other prisoners for how reprehensible the rapper's criminal endeavors really were. People were talking, and the cellmate had a family member look up Mario, giving the full details of his sins. Even at Terre Haute, there are cars, some pretending to be on politics. Mario could sense that he was unwanted, and it was only days before his people would tell him he had to go up top. He was no longer allowed to stay on the yard at USP Terre Haute. He had been banished and threatened by other prisoners that if he did not go to the police and tell them he had to go, then he would die right there. With his head hung low, he would take a detour on his way to lunch to the lieutenant's office and tell them he could no longer stay at the prison, that he wanted to check into protective custody. He would be escorted to the special housing unit and stripped naked. Standing before another man in shame, he would change into the standard orange rags that he was given for clothing and a shoe, knowing that he would be locked in a cell 23 hours a day, and if he was lucky, he would get to walk around in the dog kennel once a day for an hour. Even that was for only 2 days a week. As the officer escorted Mario to his cell, he would ask him with fear in his voice, "Who are you putting me in with?" The officer escorting him would simply say, "One of your homies, you piece of shit." Even the police knew who Uncle Red was, a man with a death wish, even among prisoners that were not accepted at a dropout pen. Once in the SHU, SIS would investigate his case for a threat assessment as to whether or not Mario was in danger. Officers would determine that they felt Mario was not in danger and would order him back to the yard. He would refuse, telling them that he was in danger. Mario was afraid to leave his SHU cell. As prison officials do, they would write him up for refusing programs, which means he was refusing to go back into general population. He would also be wrote up for possessing a prison knife. Some speculate that it was planted on him, but in this world of prison, no one really knows. Stand up, count. The yell of the cop would echo off the concrete and steel. Like every night, Mario would stand up, but this would be his last time. There had been anger and hatred brewing between him and his cellmate, and in prison, when you're all alone with your thoughts, you have plenty of time to plot, and his cellmate began to plot on how to take the vicious sinner's life that was sharing a cell with him. His cellmate had likely been planning this just as the former Mexican mafia member, John Cusack, had planned his hit on George Floyd's nemesis, Derek Chauvin. As the cops did the count, everyone was good and in place for the stand-up count. And once the officer was tucked away back in his office in the bubble, Mario the Devil had become fair game. His cellmate decided that today, January 14, 2024, would be the last day that he would breathe. He would hit him from the back, pouncing on him like a roaring lion. Mario would try to swing back in fear, but it would do him no good. His cellie would strike him again and again, and here, he would leave his blood on the razor wire. All of his fears would become his reality, the fears that all S offenders had. Will they live or die behind these gloomy gray walls? As the cops walked through to do the midnight count, the cellmate, sweaty and distraught, would rap on the door and tell the cops, "Hey man, get this bitch out of here. He dead." The cop would shine his flashlight through the small window at what looked like a lifeless Mario Waters. The cop would say, "We'll be back," as they finished the count. At 12:20 a.m., they would handcuff the cellmate and open the door to find Uncle Red, where most people felt he should be, dead. But what did Uncle Red, that street dude, really do to deserve his untimely death in a prison cell? Mario Uncle Red Waters, 34, of Palestine, Arkansas, had pleaded guilty in October 2021 to a federal charge of conspiracy to commit trafficking of a minor. In fact, she was only 6. Mario was indicted along with DeMarcus Daddy George, another piece of shit, 28 years old, of Little Rock in September 2019 on charges of conspiracy to commit trafficking of a minor. In fact, he was the little girl's stepfather. He too, knowing that he had AIDS, would infect the little girl. The person that should have been protecting her had been selling her and abusing her. DeMarcus George, another so-called street dude and rapper, would plead guilty to the conspiracy count in November 2021, believing that he would be getting a 19-year sentence. He was shocked when just before Halloween, the devil was sentenced to life in federal prison. Mario too would plead guilty, expecting that someday he would get out of prison. In federal court in Little Rock on a Wednesday, Waters' attorney, Gary Caruthers, who was appointed to represent him after his previous attorney was dismissed, argued that Mario, Uncle Red, should be subject to a guideline range of 235 months, 5 months below 20 years. His attorney argued that Waters' conduct did not reach the level of that of his co-defendant, George, whom he described as the driving force between the two, who had even threatened Waters' judge by putting a gun to his head at one point. 20 years is a substantial sentence all on its own, his attorney would say. Clearly wrestling with the decision, Judge Miller would think out loud on the situation before him in the sentencing range of 235 to 293 months that was recommended by the advisory sentencing guidelines. I've been going back and forth on this, the judge would say. Mr. George is the boyfriend of the mother who's pimping out a 6-year-old girl. Mr. George is the one making the little girl available. Mr. Waters has a baby with the sister of Mr. George, so the little girl refers to him as her uncle and to George as her dad, and both of them are having S with her. Miller noted that the girl had contracted HIV from George, saying, "I hate to say it like this, but Mr. George has sentenced this little girl to death." The judge said he had not sentenced George to life imprisonment first. He would have certainly sentenced Waters to life, but he questioned whether the men's conduct could be considered equal. How he could even question that is mind-boggling. My thought is this: in an above guideline sentence, but I don't know what we get to life, he said. I wrote in my notes 420 months, which is 35 years, which is 100 months above the guideline range. That's kind of the area I've been thinking. But the prosecutor, Christian Brand, standing, her arms spread wide and a thunderous look on her face, gave an impassioned argument for a life sentence. I don't want the court to forget Mr. Waters gave her gonorrhea and chlamydia, the prosecutor would say. I know that's not HIV.
This ancient traditional patches are exposing an ugly truth. Start eliminating toxins from your body right now. Nobody believed me at first, but now everyone wants one. My friends laughed at me for falling for a so-called miracle detox foot patch. But once they saw the results, better sleep, more
HIV, but it's still STDs for which she has to receive treatment. I don't think this case teeters on the fact that Mr. George gave her HIV and Mr. Waters didn't. She would also argue that anyone looking in might consider a lesser sentence to be less of a deterrent. Should the John, she asked, Mr. Waters be treated differently than the pimp when he engaged in the exact same behavior? The question is, would I have sentenced Mr. Waters to life if I had not sentenced Mr. George first? Miller asked. Would I have given him life? I think I would have. Following an apology from Waters to the child's family and an emotional statement from the child's adopted mother, Judge Miller returned to the question of an appropriate
This
sentence.
dude need to be
I never thought this before I became a judge.
You peddling a 6-year-old kid,
I'm going to send you to prison for a long time.
Man, you out of your
It's not an
mind.
easy thing. Sentencing people to
You
prison
having
is the
sex
hardest
with
thing
it
that all
yourself?
of us judges do. But when I listen to the witnesses,
This
it's
is
like
crazy,
everything I
man.
was
We
thinking,
got some
it
crazy
just brings it
people in
home.
this world.
And it's like, that's what I'm going to do.
That's why you got to protect your
Turning to
children.
Uncle Red, the judge would pronounce the sentence. I think had I not sentenced Mr. George first, and I was faced with sentencing a man who armed a 6-year-old girl, I'd give him life. Had I not sentenced Mr. George first, it would have been an easy choice. Life. So I shouldn't let the fact he was worse than you stop me from doing what I think is the best sentence. The likelihood of you ever getting out are slim. And if you do it, it'll be so far in the future that none of this will even matter. The judge was right, because just less than a year after his sentencing, Mario Uncle Red Waters was killed in his prison cell, forever cemented in hell. Is it mind-boggling to you that even the judge was considering less than life? At one point, the judge, in his mind, was giving this cat 35 years. He's like, I'm about to sentence this cat to 35 years, and that's it. The prosecutor gets in there and just reminds the judge of what a nasty individual this dude is, what type of devil he was. And then, you go off to federal prison. And he's thinking, all right, man, I don't know what prison's like. I've never been to federal prison. What's going to happen to me? Of course, anybody that has an S offense, and you know what S is, can't say it on YouTube, but anybody that has that type of offense and you're walking into prison, you already know that you're in danger. Your life is in danger wherever you go. And then they probably told him, well, don't worry, they're going to send you to a special place. You're going to be in a special prison with people just like you, and you're going to be safe. But no one's safe. No matter what prison you go to, nobody is safe. And federal prison is a dangerous place. It's a place where you can lose your life. Many people have lost their lives. And this cat lost his life. When you're locked in that cell, there's no way out. This is it. It's concrete and steel. And if the other dude's a little bit tougher than you, or if he gets the up on you, guess what?
Hit them lights, y'all. Hit them
people in
lights.
federal prison fight to the death. Believe me when I tell you.
Nobody's
There's
safe
a brother
in
the other day
prison,
talking
man.
about this.
Rappers, all
There's
that.
no
Kids,
stopping.
young
There's
men
no
and women
stopping
out
until
there,
the
this
cops
is for
tell you that.
educational
That's just
purposes.
how it works.
Don't think
They're
the
like,
grass is
"Hey,
greener
enough, man, that's
on the
it.
other side,
Time
y'all.
out. You ain't tapping out. This ain't the UFC. This is where you can lose your life.
Please wake
And people
up.
that do these types of crimes right here,
Smell
like
the
this cat,
coffee
he's
that's
out there,
burning
he's
in the
rapping, he's
kitchen.
that dude, he's a street dude. And look what the shit he was doing, man. Look at the shit this guy.